Now turn up.
So, beat the press. Have now got the one and only Jim Ervin in. Jim, how you doing?
Not too bad, Stevie. Yourself?
Not too bad, not too bad. I'm very, very excited to get this going. So, how's things going with you at the minute, anyway?
Yeah, all good. Just moved clubs. So I was left Ballymena 3 weeks ago and then signed for Carrick Rangers. So there's nothing really happening at the minute with off-season. Just been on the UFA licence this week. Getting the badges and stuff finished. We don't start back the 17th of July, so I'm looking forward to that, getting to meet my new teammates and getting down and around the club and see what's going to happen regarding the new season.
Yeah. I see you saying Cushley as well, David Cushley.
Yep, Cush.
And he's agreed to be on this as well, so he has.
I'm sure Cush is a good guy to get on. It's a brilliant sign for us, and I think it shows the ambition that the club are sort of moving in, that they're able to get a player of calibre of David Cushley, and obviously Ben Tilney, who's already signed as well. So Stuart has signed well so far, and I'm sure he'll be looking to try and get a few more additions in, because we need bodies in. Obviously he's got expectations this year of where we're looking to go and what we're looking to do, and it's important that he gets the quality in that he needs.
Yeah. So you just mentioned about your coaching badges and stuff. What way are you going? Is that what you would like to do in the future, or obviously I know you're coaching the kids at the minute, but
yeah, no, long term I want to get into coaching the Irish League and possibly manage him one day, you know. And it was part of the reason moving to Carrick as well. It gives me a wee bit of coaching side of things if and when I'm not playing. But no, I'm taking my badges. I always remembered listening to the older players like William Murphy and stuff at Linfield. They say get your badges done whilst you're still playing, that when you do finish that you can just make that transition straight into it. Because I know there's boys that have left, you know, retired from football, and it's took them a while to build the coaching badges up before they're able to get a job with the qualification you need. So it's something that I'm keen to get involved in. I've been involved in obviously kids football for quite a bit now, between the County Antrim Milk Cup selection and obviously the young lads team Springfield Stars. So it's good that it gives me that experience. I've also done a wee bit of work at the Liverpool Centre of Excellence for a number of years as well. So it gives me that experience and allows me to make no mistakes now at this level. And because I know when it gets to the senior side, you know, or senior level, you have to try and cut those mistakes out, and the minimum mistakes you have at that level, then the better it is for you. So it's definitely a long-term aim and a long-term goal for me is to get into coaching at senior level.
Brilliant. Basically what we're going to do is just going to talk a wee bit about your playing career and stuff like that. I see obviously when you were younger, St Andrews.
Yep, so started off St Andrews with the famous Joe Kincaid, Shankill Leisure Centres every Saturday morning. That's how long back it goes. Developed through there, played for the school team and stuff, but it was Jim Wallace would have been my coach at the time at St Andrews, with some fantastic players like Chris Brunt, Steve Davis, Ram McKeown, Chris McKeown that you would know very well, Gary Kincaid, you know, to name but a few. So developed through there, probably from under 10s right through the under 16s, and it was quite. I was one of the. Me and Steve Davis were one of the two where the age groups kind of changed from your school year till the actual year that you were born, and we actually had to drop down a year to go into our team, and then I was involved with Stephen Seaton and Davy McAlinden Senior, who looked after me then at St Andrews. But it was absolutely fantastic times. You know, back then, I think boys probably wouldn't realise now that it was just solely boys clubs. Yeah. Where now you've all these different academies out there, and people get carried away with the Linfields, the Glentorns. You know, St Andrews at the time, we were one of the top teams in Northern Ireland, and we had people from everywhere across the country that would have came to play for us, which was absolutely fantastic. So I found myself very lucky to be involved with them. To be quite honest with you, that I was able to stay there from when I first started off until it finished. So it was a good grounding for me, and it was a brilliant experience. Some of the coaches and players that have come through the club have been absolutely fantastic.
Who was your manager in the school team? Or?
School team at the boys' model was John McCaig, which was good and bad in ways, because John was a fantastic coach, but he looked after the Victory Shield team in Northern Ireland, and it was kind of one of those things that you had to be exceptionally good to get involved, and unfortunately I missed out in the Victory Shield team, but I have no complaints because they went on to beat England to win it that year. So I can't really say too much about his team selection, to be honest.
I remember, I think Jody Beattie took it on after that.
Jody Beattie then took after it, yes, tried another boys model teacher. But no, it was good. Listen, it's quite funny because I can remember the school team. Never used to play for the school team.
Right.
We struggled getting into the team, and we had actually a very, very good team, but it was a good team full of individuals.
Yeah.
And I actually still think to this day that we've probably been the only boys model school to go from first to fifth year without winning the trophy. That's how good we were. But I think when you look back at some of the players we had in that team were brilliant, but just as a team we couldn't gel, and we never done anything. And I think that's probably the disappointing thing for the school, that for a boys model team to go first to fifth year and not win a trophy was a bit disappointing.
It's unheard of.
Yeah, it is, especially now. You still, they're one of the top sides in the country.
Yeah. So then, obviously from St Andrews, then you must have moved on. The Nottingham Forest experience. What was it like?
Yeah, so it was a bit surreal, to be honest with you, how it happened. And it's probably a thing for young boys to sort of listening to, because I can always remember, I think it was 13 at the time, I first went on the trial at Nottingham Forest. It was over the Easter period. So 13 years of age, going away for a week over to Nottingham. Every young boy's dream to get away on a football trial at Nottingham Forest. A massive club with lots of history, and going over there for a week, absolutely brilliant. I think you played 2 or 3 games. 2 games, and we trained 3-4 times a week. So you were just living the dream. You were living like a professional footballer, and you sort of get into the way of how football is in England compared to Northern Ireland, where at St Andrews we trained an hour one night a week, every Tuesday at Paisley. To go then on a trial to Nottingham Forest, where these kids were in 4 nights a week, trained on a Saturday afternoon, played a match on a Sunday. So the difference in their, not just their ability, but their quickness, how sharp they were, and it was all down to the contact time they have. And I still think to this day it's similar. Teams in Northern Ireland don't have enough contact time with kids. But that was at 13. I went there for a week and I didn't hear anything back.
Right.
I attended the Centre of Excellence at the Valley Leisure Centre through a guy called Michael Whitley, who was the main scout in Northern Ireland for Nottingham Forest. But that Easter time, I can remember thinking I would hear something back within a week or two of how you get on.
Yeah.
Nothing ever came from it. It's like you kind of think, nothing's going to happen here. And exactly a year later, at the Easter time again, it was another trial for a week.
Yeah.
So again, at 14 years of age then, I was away at Easter thinking, happy days, here we go again. Another week, same sort of setup, brilliant, enjoyed it, come home buzzing, talking about it. You're just so excited and telling all your friends about it. Again, didn't hear anything about it. Thought to myself, my gosh, it hasn't worked out this time. And just come back and continued to play for St Andrews. And the January time, I was just turned 15, and I remember going to travel in Sunderland at 15 in the January time, and again went away 3-4 days. There was 3 or 4 boys from Northern Ireland over. Another great experience of, looking at how Sunderland then done things compared to Nottingham Forest, and it was a real good insight as to the 2 clubs, how they worked, So I came away from that, and it's one of those ones you're kind of just waiting to hear if you're going to be invited back over. I got invited back to Nottingham Forest again for the 3rd year in a row at Easter time.
Okay.
And went over, and again, I can remember, I think if you could remember in school, it's probably changed now. We used to have a careers class for a half an hour once a week.
Mrs. Black.
In 4th and 5th year, it was all about gearing yourself up for when you leave school. What do you want to do? Where are you going to go? And I can remember from the first day till probably the last time I ever went to Nottingham Forest, they always said, I want to be a footballer. And I remember people in my class going, I want to be a bricklayer, tailor, electrician. And these were in these careers class, getting these booklets and looking at different information. And I just had it in my head, I want to be a footballer. But as time went on, you were going back to Nottingham Forest for the 3rd time, been to Sunderland, hadn't heard anything back. So again, Nottingham Forest for a week at Easter, went away. And I can remember sitting in careers class just before I went and thinking, I need to think about what I'm going to do here when I leave school, because this ain't happening. I've now 3-4 months left of school. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've no interest in anything other than playing football, but I need to be realistic of what my chances are. So again, went away for a week at Easter time, and St Andrews were in a cup semi-final on the Saturday morning, and I can remember through Davy McAlinden Senior, he had requested 2 of the boys that were away, myself and another lad, Darren Munster, could we come back a day early to play in the cup semi-final, and we didn't know if it was going to happen. Thankfully we were allowed back, and I can remember we were waiting to get taken to the airport, and pardon me, one of the coach's twins says, "Listen, lads, would the two of you like to come back?" And we were like, "Sorry, would you like to come back in again?" We were like, "Yeah, no problem, brilliant, fantastic, we would love to." So we get into the car going to the airport, and we just get chatting about how we thought the week went. He says, "Right, no problem." Airport on the way home, he says, "Listen, we look forward to having you back in." And we're like, "No, can't wait, when's it going to be?" He says, "Well, we've already spoke to your parents, we would like you to come in full time in the summer."
Right.
So me and Darren Monsters at the airport, and each other going, parents haven't said anything to us. Long story short, flew home, picked up at the airport, mum and dad picked me up, and they had then been in discussions with Nottingham Forest the night before, obviously, with the plans that they had in place. So that was Easter time. We flew back over with mum and dad, bank holiday, May Day, and it was a case of them getting to have a look at the place in and around. If they had any questions to ask, if we had any questions to ask, and then they obviously told us the length of the contract and what was going to happen. But it was just... It's difficult to put in, because I can remember that going to those careers classes for half an hour for a year, thinking footballer, and then when the penny dropped, this ain't happening here, I need to come up with a plan B. It kind of happened, So it was quite surreal as to how that worked out. But moved away there, I just turned 16, moving away from home, which was quite daunting. Yeah. Although there was 5 of us from Northern Ireland and we all kind of knew of each other. You were leaving your family, you just left school, you hadn't grown up. Yeah. So you were literally walking out of school at the end of June, and we had moved over on the 4th of July, so you had like 4 days preparation to get yourself geared up to go away. You didn't know what you were walking into. And the first couple of days was a real eye-opener as to what we were going to expect over the next 3 years. As I say, you're training here at St Andrews one night a week. You maybe had your centre of excellence another night, but we're all only 1 hour sessions. Yeah. To then get up on your first day of pre-season and realise you were then at 8 o'clock in the morning, you were training until 12 o'clock, you were back out in the afternoon from 2 to 4. It was a bit of a culture shock, to be honest with you, and it was a big shock to the system, trying to get used to that training. But through time you get used to it, and I spent 3 years there. It was absolutely brilliant. Yeah. It was a dream come true for me. The only disappointing thing was it ended after 3 years and I had to come home, and I would have loved to have had a second chance, whether it be at another club in England or even Scotland, but it was just one of those things. I count myself very lucky to have been given the opportunity to go away and experience it for 3 years. Yeah. And I've no regrets of anything that happened when we were away. Or do I think you possibly could have done things differently? 100%. But at that time, you didn't know any different. It's only me looking back now, maybe a wee bit more experience thinking back. But as a 16 to 18-year-old kid, there was nothing more that I felt at that time that I could have given. Looking back now, 100% there was things that could have been changed. But I've no regrets whatsoever for anything that I've done and anything that I achieved over there.
What did you think of Sunderland when you were? Was it any different? I think it was Sunderland Premier League at the time. Was Forest Premier League at the time?
Forest were Championship, Sunderland were Premier League. They were, to be honest with you, they were quite similar, because Nottingham Forest at the time had a massive academy, and they were known for bringing young lads through, particularly Irish boys. So the setup they had, and the way you always looked at it when you were looking at sort of clubs was, could you get an opportunity through hard work of possibly going into the first team? And getting your debut as such. When I looked at the both of them, Sunderland were the Premiership team at the time, so they had millions to spend. Yeah. It was going to be, I felt, highly unlikely, or you had to be absolutely exceptional to break through, because once you got to reserve level, first team level, maybe squads of 30, 35 players, and they were all internationals at Sunderland at the time. Nottingham Forest at the Championship had a good squad, but academy-wise, they were one of the top academies in England, and it was a massive attraction. It was something too. It was my first ever team that I went and trial on. Yeah. So they kind of always had that wee bit of a pull towards you. And when they'd offered me the contract, it was, I didn't have to think twice about it. And saying that, Sunderland didn't offer me a contract anyway, so it wasn't really an option. But the experience both was brilliant. And even some of the experiences we had at Forest was, we went to Dallas, played in the Dallas Cup. What year? 2003, past 2002. Played in the Dallas Cup in Dallas for 12 days. This was absolutely scary. You're 17 years of age, flying to Dallas. your teammates, living in a hotel and doing all the things professional footballers do and getting paraded around the place. And we actually went on to win the Dallas Cup that year. That was brilliant. So for a team from England to come across, you teams from Mexico, Brazil, we beat a team from Mexico in the final. So to actually do that was an experience in itself. But being away in a different country, you think you just always want to be in England and travelling up and down the country to get 12 days in Mexico or 12 days in Dallas was scary.
Brilliant. Did any of the guys that went over with you, did any of them push through, or did any guys in your team push on
in sort of
team or whatever?
So in England, the way it works, you've got first year, second year, third year. It was first year scholar, first year pro, second year pro. In my year group, there was 2 boys that made their debut. I think there was 12 of us. And after the 3 years, 9 of us got released, right, and 3 were kept on. The 3 were kept on who had all made their debut whilst they were still at the under 19 age. But they were all released the following year. So actually, out of my age group, there was nobody kept on within a year within 4 years of us all being there, you know. So that's how difficult it is, you know, to get there. But the main one probably for me, the being in and around the youth team, would have been Michael Dawson. He'd have been a year older than me. Yeah. He obviously went on to make a career, went to Tottenham and Hull City and played the Premiership, England International. Jermaine Janis was just, as I had arrived, he had been in his second year pro, but he was that good, he was with the first team at the time. So he was another high profile player that he went on to make, I think he $5 million move to Newcastle at the time.
I think he went to Newcastle.
You know, and I think he was only 18 at the time too. So it was brilliant that we were always given that opportunity. Our academy director at the time was Paul Hart, so he went on to manage him, and that's what I'm saying. It was brilliant too, because his experiences, he'd win the league with Leeds United, the Youth Cup with Leeds United, when they had a really successful youth setup with Harry Kewell, Warren Feeney and the likes of those. And he had left Leeds to come to Forest, so he had then built up that reputation of giving young guys a chance and pushing people, you know, into the first team. And I think when we had went across, between the 17s, 19s and reserves, there were something like 15 Irish boys, including us, but there was 5 from Northern Ireland in that, you know. So he had an eye for people on this side of, you know, it wasn't just mainland England. He had an eye for boys in Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, and we had all built up a great friendship for that reason. You know, we knew there was going to be an opportunity if we could do something. But he was a scary bloke.
Paul Hart.
Paul Hart was scary.
I watched the podcast the other day. I forget who it was talking about him. He says at youth level, unbelievable, when he went to senior level, he couldn't handle it. I think it was Andy Johnson. Andy Johnson was talking about it.
Yeah, but even at that, you know, at Forest, I thought he was hard done by at that, not even Forest when he got the first team job, because he got the first team job. Forest had no money. They had absolutely no money. We're stealing all their best players, and the best players were having to go out and loan just to try and get the wage bill under control. So what he'd done was, he had obviously pushed so many players through into the reserves and first team level. He had worked with them for years. Then the boys that he had at youth level at that time, he brought them with him.
Yeah.
So at first team level, his first year, I think they get into the championship playoffs and narrowly lost out to Sheffield United in the semi-finals. I think Sheffield United beat them 6-5 over an aggregate over the 2 games. And then after that, the following year, I think the first 9 games, he had lost something like 6, pardon me, and then he got the sack from it. You know, so I think he was quite hard done by that. He wasn't given a chance to try and build that back again, you know, with what he had done. He was probably too successful too soon and getting to the playoffs, when really at that time Nottingham Forest had no right to be anywhere near it because of the resources they had and how young their squad were. But I think that was probably the reason he did so well, because the squad was so young, they didn't have a fear factor about them. Yeah. They just went out and enjoyed themselves and played to a certain standard and played a certain way as the Forest DNA was at that time, you know. And they just got success from it and just built and built and built. And it's like anything in football, and you get that bit of momentum, it just carries you on, you know. You have no fear of anything and you think you could beat anybody at any time. Yeah.
So great experiences then, obviously, all around. Take it no nights out, 16, 18.
I wouldn't say that. Nottingham was very good. It had a very good nightlife. I can remember, I wouldn't have said it back then, but I can maybe come out now and a wee bit older. we were quite strict. We stayed in the digs, and the digs was actually right next door to the city ground. So this is how strict it was. It was quite regimented, to be honest. You had to be in, so you'd your training during the day, which was all scheduled out, and you'd your dinner times and stuff like that. But the main rule was, during the week, you had to be in the house for 9. Okay. In your bedroom for 9:30.
Okay.
And lights out for 10.
Great.
So you can imagine what that's like. In this digs, so if you can imagine the digs, it's a 3-story house, and it's 2 into 1 as such. So there's 24 teenagers in this house at 16, 17, 18 years of age, having to be in for 9 o'clock, in your bedroom for 9:30, and your lights, TV, that had to be off for 10 o'clock. We were lucky enough at the weekend, it was 11 o'clock. So you can imagine a Saturday night. It was only the Northern Irish foreign boys, is what we were called, were left in the digs, because all the English guys went home, because they were all within an hour, 2 hours travel from the place. So the first 2 years you couldn't really get the experience that. It was quite difficult because it was quite regimented. But on your 3rd year you actually went out with a family. So there was me and another boy, David Frayne, who was from Cork.
Okay.
So me and him went to stay with his family. And it's funny now because he's from Cork. He's actually married to a girl now who lives in Rathcoole, and that's where he's living. So he just sort of fell in with all us boys from Northern Ireland and loved it that much. He ended up moving here. So we went and stayed with a family, probably 15-20 minutes away from the ground. And there was a guy there who was a student. He used to play for Nottingham Forest and had to retire due to injury, but he was at uni in Manchester 2 days a week. Yeah. But he still just had all his friends that he built up in Nottingham, and he stayed there. He travelled back and forward to Manchester. So Kevin Doyle, you call him. So he was a student as such, so he knew all the places to go, and kind of led me and David Frayne astray a few times, and we ended up finding ourselves out on a Tuesday night, Wednesday night, student nights, Saturday night. You know, and this is when you're like really meant to be. That's what I'm saying. I've no regrets in what I've done, because things have could have changed. You know, so you remember you were into these bars and you were thinking, you know, 18, 17, 18, you're thinking you're the dogs, you know what, get in and you just get talking to people, and they will pick up in the Irish accent. Then they'd been like, "What are you doing over here?"
Did you use the chat up when I played for Nottingham?
No, I never forget. I always used to, maybe a few times. That could get you into a bit of trouble sometimes too, because you never knew who you were talking to. But I can always remember. I never forget this night. We were out. We from Belfast. Oh, I love the accent. Oh, you're talking away. And, what are you doing over here? Oh, I'm at uni. You know, so you're thinking, right, okay. Oh, I'm at uni too. What uni? Used to pick Nottingham University. What are you studying? You used to pause. You couldn't think of anything. So as the experience kind of grew, you used to come straight out with, I'm at university. What are you studying? Law. I haven't a clue about law, but that was what I used to study for 3 years. But no, it was brilliant. Nottingham was a great nightlife. Some fantastic nights out, and had plenty of friends come over to visit me, and we always would have went down. I remember the experience of bringing them over, a couple of my mates, and we went to a bar called Hooters.
Okay.
So being away from home, never heard of a place called Hooters before in my life until I went over to England. And you're thinking all the boys talking about Hooters, and you're thinking, what's all this name about Hooters? Like, what's all this about? So the mates come over, right, we're going to Hooters. I just remember sitting in Hooters, drinking away, some date. I remember my mates just going. So obviously anybody knows Hooters, all these girls with white tight tops on, black pants running about the place. But it was something because Northern Ireland, you didn't have that, but it was absolutely brilliant. It was an experience, 3 years that I could never take away, 3 fantastic years. And to be honest with you, out of the whole thing, football side of things, absolutely brilliant. Academically, you had to go to college a day and a half a week. And that was the one thing that stuck out to me, that even though you were out playing professional football, you had a day and a half's education. Yeah. And that was for everybody for the full 3 years. You had no way of getting out of it. So I done a GMVQ in leisure and tourism, and then went into sports science for a year, or sports studies of some sort for a year then, the last year. And it was quite good that they set you up because of
anything did go wrong.
You know, the possibility of you making it as a professional footballer is quite slim. You know, and very, very low. They always made sure you had education, but they always made sure you saved so much in your wages. So they set you up with a savings account and an ISA account, and a certain percentage of your wages had to go into that account. You know, you had nothing to pay for, so you were staying in digs and they had everything paid for. You know, your food, your transport. You live right beside the ground, you edit the ground. The only thing you had to pay for is if you wanted to go to the cinema or you wanted to go and buy yourselves clothes. But even at that, you weren't doing anything.
Yeah.
You know, I always thought that was quite good, that they made you save for if a rainy day, if anything happened, you had something to fall back on, which was quite good. But the experience of growing up was the one thing I learned. Growing up very quickly, you know, you were away from home. You were cooking yourself sometimes. You were doing your cleaning. You were doing your washing, ironing, different bits and pieces like that. So that was the main thing that I took out of it. The football side, fantastic, brilliant 3 years, the experiences, but it was growing up more than anything was probably the big thing that I took from it.
Who was the first team manager team?
It was David Platt was the first team manager when we first moved across. So we moved across on the 4th of July. David Platt was the first team manager, and Paul Hart was the academy director. And within a month, David Platt left to take the England under-21s job. Him and a boy, Steve Wigley, who was his assistant manager at Forest, they both left to take the England under-21s job. So Paul Hart then went straight up into the first team, which for us was brilliant because he was the one that signed us. So you're thinking to yourself, brilliant, he signed us, so he knows what we're capable of. But listen, it just wasn't to be. It's so difficult, and that's what I'm saying. Out of our year, if there was 12 of us, 9 get released. I can remember there was only 3 boys kept on for another year, and then after that year, then 3 boys released as well. You know, so that's how difficult it was.
Yeah. So then, from Forest, no disappointment with that, you came home. Did you go to Linfield? Was it then, or did you go?
So when I come home from Forest, and I was playing in the Milk Cup for Northern Ireland under-19s, the elite level at the time. Roy Miller was the manager. And I can remember, so before the build-up to that, I was training with Linfield one night, Ballymena the next, during pre-season. Kenny Shields, so Dave Jeffrey was the manager of Linfield. Kenny, who I knew through the Northern Ireland under-17 setup, was the manager of Ballymena. And they both invited me to training. So I went back and forth, and had a trial organised with Yeovil Town before the Milk Cup.
Right.
So I went across there. I was meant to spend a week, and I think after 4 days they made a decision that they weren't going to keep me. They weren't going to offer me anything. So came back from that, and I'd always remember saying, "I'll wait and see what happens at the Milk Cup, and then after that I'll make my mind up." So went away, played Milk Cup for Northern Ireland, which was another great experience. We played Brazil at Windsor Park. It was one of the first times Brazil came over. And Fernandinho had actually played that night. Right. So you probably see there's a photograph circulates every now and again from the Milk Cup committee of Steve Davis and Fernandinho.
Okay.
The two of them labelled marking each other at the time. So they would have been the 2 main ones to come out of that game, you know, of where they went on and kicked on to. So after the Milk Cup, nothing sort of materialised with trials or anything like that anywhere else, and I had a decision to make whether to go to Linfield or Ballymena. Both offered me exactly the same contract. Only home, I knew I needed to get a job, travelling back and forward to Ballymena, didn't know how it was going to go. Linfield were close to my heart, being a big blue man all my days, you know, my family and where I'm from. So I wouldn't say it was an easy decision, because I knew going to Linfield I probably wouldn't get the opportunity to play as what I would have done if I went to Ballymena. So I just had to make a decision, and it was Linfield that I chose to go to. And again, it started off well, played the first 5-6 games in the old CIS Cup as it was called. It was like a group stage thing at the time before the league started. Then I got a bit of an injury and just couldn't get into the team after that. Stephen Douglas was there, and he just stayed in the team all year. He couldn't get in for one reason or another. That was the year we lost the league to the famous Morgan Day. But you know, that was an experience in itself. I was training with the first team, I was in the first team squads, maybe on the bench. And I knew at the end of that year we just won the Santanta Cup. So I was involved with the team, but I didn't play. And I knew that year, Fred, we've won the Santanta Cup. I played very little last year. I need to do something here to get myself. So the famous boxing club in Lanark
Yep.
that we used to there, what do you call the guy? Billy, was it?
I think it was Billy.
Billy?
It was.
So he used to run the wee boxing club in Lanark Way. So I can remember after the Santanta Cup, everybody, well, not everybody, but you used to take sort of 2 or 3 weeks off, give yourself complete shutdown before you started building yourself back up for pre-season. I remember after the St. Panta Cup thinking, I can't afford to do this because I've hardly played 7 games. I can't afford to take this time out. I need to go on. So I went to the boxing club 3 nights a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, religiously for probably 6 weeks of pre-season, or the off-season. Different training, something that was totally, did some very, very little running. It was just all boxing work, and went back to pre-season and I was absolutely flying. I couldn't believe it because I say there was very, very little running. It was all just boxing in the gym with Billy as a group. So it wasn't even a one-to-one. It was like a group circuit session more than anything. And that's set me in good stead going back to pre-season. And I flew back pre-season after that then and managed to get into the team straight away. Played in Europe. And that was the year we went on to win the clean sweep. So it was a great experience. It was my second year at Linfield, but it felt like my first year because I'd managed to get in, stay in, played in the Europa League, progressed. We were the first Irish League team, and I think it was something like 7-8 years to progress in the round. So we beat a team, Fitchspels, from Latvia. Then went on to play a team in Sweden, Halmstads. Drew 1 each away from home. So we were absolutely buzzing coming back to Windsor. You think you've got an away goal, and they beat us, I think it was 5-3 in aggregate, and we went out. But that set us up for that year. We were absolutely steamrolled teams. And it was quite funny because Davy didn't really have much of a team talk to do that year. It was just, we were relentless. And David, Brian and Alfie, they'd introduced the third night's training. It was probably the first time it ever happened. So we were Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. And our fitness levels just went through the roof compared to other teams, or so we thought anyway. But that year we had the game won after 15 minutes. We just knew going out that we were so confident that we could go out. And the amount of games we were maybe 3-0 up after 15 minutes, 4-0 up, and the game was just dead and buried, But we had those characters at the time that when the chips were down and you had to grind results out.
Yep.
When you look back at the team, it was absolutely scary. Noel Bailey, William Murphy, Pat McShane, Paul McAreevy, Owen Kearney, Tim Mounsey, Galway, and then you'd Spike and Peter up front. And that was kind of like the starting 11 that year. Big Alan Manus and nets, but you had Davy Larmour to come in, you had Mark Picking to come in, you had Stephen Douglas, Andy Hunter, Jamie Mulgrew. And the players you had that if anybody was having an off game, you were out and these boys were back in, and it was just scary.
That's something.
It was absolutely scary, but we came. But it was quite funny too because it was near enough the same 11 every week. That we played that well. You maybe one out with suspension, one in, but then they went back out and the other boy came back from suspension. Very little injuries, and I believe that was part of our success that year to go on and do the clean sweep, which was unheard of. So. For me, being a big Linfield man, coming from the Shankill family, just absolutely adore the place. It was a dream come true to win the medals that it did. The clean sweep to go down in folklore is absolutely fantastic, and we just kind of built on from there. At Linfield, it was many ups and downs as a team, many ups and downs as an individual.
Yeah. But
memories to cherish for life, and the experiences I got through that itself, the friends I've made through it. It's frightening to look back on now, especially when we got the kids now. They wouldn't have knew anything about the sort of Linfield connection. They only know Ballymena, and looking back now at photographs and medals and able to show them, and because they go to the games and would see Windsor Park and think, obviously it's not the Windsor Park that I had played in before, but to be able to look back and show them as different things that happened is absolutely brilliant.
How did it feel like watching the Linfield Glentoran games? I know everyone likes to play in big games. How did it feel going from watching to being in that sort of atmosphere? Because everyone talks about atmospheres of the English League, Scottish League and Rangers Sub and stuff. But Linfield and Glentoran, I've been to some, and the atmosphere, when the two teams are nip and tuck, it can be volatile at times.
It can. My first experience of a Big Two derby was actually a CIS Cup final, the year we won the clean sweep. We beat them 2-0 or 3-0. Spike scored 2. I missed the penalty.
Right.
But that was my first real.
Get to the CV here.
That was my first real experience of a Big Two in a cup final, and it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I remember, I wouldn't say I get more nervous playing against Glentoran than did any other team because I always had that butterflies going out, and I can always remember different players saying, so if you don't have butterflies in your stomach before any match, you shouldn't really be playing, because you're kind of then. I always remember, no matter who I played, I probably got more nervous playing the lesser teams, because there was more of an expectation of you to go out and steamroll them. Linfield Glentoran teams, games, they just looked after themselves.
Yeah.
You know, the passion. It's quite strange, because although the atmosphere is brilliant, but when you're playing and focused, you don't realise the atmosphere. You know, and I found that very, very quickly, that in the bigger games in the Irish League, you had to block everything out around you and just focus on what was happening in the pitch. So you were kind of oblivious to what was going on, you know, around you in the stadium, and I felt that was the best way for me to get through it, because I think if you let the atmosphere get to you, you can build up on that.
Yeah.
You feed off that. So if things are going wrong, and you know, the Linfield supporters or Glentoran supporters, they could be on top of you, and that could put your levels down, or other people might raise your level. But I always tried to make sure that I blocked it out and tried to focus on the game, and still to this day, it's something that I always do. That once I cross the white line for a match on Saturday, I just blank everything out around me and just focus solely on the match, because I think if you start focusing everything else around you, you lose concentration in the game, and you're lost, and then your opponent's got an advantage on you straight away.
Yeah. What was the difference coming from Forest till Linfield? You know, you were saying about the extra night and coaching. What was the coaches like? I believe Brian McLaughlin, is it, and Alfie Wiley are pretty good coaches.
Yeah.
What was it like? Was the sessions starting to evolve, or they were starting to get better or more professional, or were they always like that?
They were probably always like that. The difference for me being was I went from academy football, so I didn't go any further than academy football, which is all about development. To then go into Linfield, where it's about winning. You know, it's not even going to Linfield and it's about getting 3 points on Saturday. It's going to Linfield, and the expectation level is we need to win every game and every trophy that's available. So from going from being a development player at Nottingham Forest till winning, it was such a big difference. But my experiences at St Andrews, going all the way back, St Andrews was all about winning.
Yeah.
You know, and that was Joe Kincaid and all the coaches there was about winning trophies. You look at it now, kids football, you would see it quite a bit, and I can agree to it to an extent. It's about just them learning. But in learning, they need to learn how to win. They need to learn how to lose. They need to learn how to feel and how to react on losing.
Yeah.
But they need to learn how to win, what it takes to win, and what it takes to keep continuing to win. And my St Andrews team is quite fortunate that we were successful every year, so that stood me in good stead jumping forward again to Linfield, where the expectation level was win. So jumping from development to that, I thought this is brilliant. You know, this is great, because you're going from playing with people at your own age to playing against adults, and you had to grow up quite quickly.
Yeah.
Because you were playing against experienced players, hard players who they didn't care what age you were. You were an opposition player. You were there to get took out. You know, and that was the way we looked at it too. When we had opposition, you know, I remember in the years gone by when players had left Linfield and we come up against them, you didn't give two monkeys about them. You know, you're maybe my friend, but today you're my enemy, and I'll do anything to get one over on you.
Yeah.
Whether it be tackles, whether it be different bits and pieces you can do, and that was I actually enjoyed that. You know, a lot of people maybe shy away from it. I really enjoyed it, and it set me up for a good grounding. And I suppose when you've got Winky Murphy, Noel Bailey, Glenn Ferguson stand behind you, you can do what you want.
Yeah, experience there. You just mentioned them, but was there any sort of, I know you were saying everyone had a winning mentality, but was there any sort of characters that kept the sort of dressing room lively, so to speak, you know, pranksters or...
Could be here all night. I say that Linfield team we had, and we'll talk about this for years, that squad. I think we had a squad maybe for about 4 years, and the players were so tight. They'd done everything together, whether it be on the pitch, socialised together, went away together. We were really, really close-knit, and it's something I've never experienced or got anywhere near experiencing from that group left or took different paths. But the characters we had in that group were absolutely scary. Mickey Murphy, straight up. Stephen Douglas, if anybody doesn't know Stephen Douglas, you would pay good money to be in his company because he's absolutely brilliant, and some of the stuff that he does, you couldn't put it on camera, to be honest with you. But Davy Larmers, the Michael Galts, everybody had their part to play because they had all different attributes sort of in the change room and keeping things going and keeping things lively. But there was a lot of messing about the changing room. But we knew once we hit a certain time that, hold on a minute, bang, we need to concentrate, we need to focus here, and that's what we've done, and I think that's why we were so successful.
Yeah. So then, obviously, we were a successful time at Linfield. Came to an end, you moved on to Ballymena. How did it feel leaving Linfield? Did you know at the time it was time to go, or?
I knew it was time to go. Did it make it any easier? No. I was absolutely gutted, distraught, because I'd spent 9.5 years at Linfield. They were my club. As I grew up supporting as a boy, the amount of time I'd spent there, loved everything about it. But I got to this stage where I was 28. I'd been in Linfield 9.5 years. I'd done 6 doubles in 7 years. Numerous amount of trophies won. I was 28 at the time, and I just thought, I'm not playing as regularly as I wanted to. Wasn't enjoying going to Windsor. It was 10 minutes down the road, but it felt like an hour down the road. Yeah. So I wasn't really enjoying it, and I knew something had to give. I had different chats with different people outside the club and inside the club, and they says, "Listen, just hang fire. You don't know what could happen. You could get your chance." But I had just got to the stage where I thought, no, I want to go and play football. I want to go and enjoy it. Do I want to continue winning? Yes. Do I believe I can still win elsewhere? Yes. But at Linfield, I just didn't think I was going to get the opportunities that I once had. There was other boys coming through. Billy Joe Burns was there at the time. Rhys Glendenning was coming through. Did I feel that they were any better than me? No. I was always confident in my own ability. I always thought that I should have been playing. Yeah. And I never always agreed with Davy's decisions, but he was the manager and I had to respect that. And I did, and I held off for as long as I could, and I could remember going and having a chat with him, and it wasn't easy for either of us to sort of go down that road, and he'd give me a couple of weeks to think about it, and I just knew that it was the right thing to do. So come January 2014, I decided to move on, and I then went to team up with Glenn Ferguson at Ballymena.
Big respect for someone who, you could have just stayed there and been successful, not play it. You went in to challenge yourself. Obviously, you went and challenged yourself. What was the difference with playing with Spike till then being managed by Spike? Was there any difference, or?
No, he had the same. He had the same ideas, and that was the big reason why I went to Ballymena at the time. I went because I was sold on what Spike was doing. They'd beat us the previous year in the County Antrim Shield on penalties, so they had a good squad. Ballymena were always known as a good cup team, and I can always remember thinking that when I went there, I'm confident that I can win things here with this club. I'm confident that we could go and do something. But it wasn't just in cups. We wanted then to try and progress in the league position. Ballymena were very, very inconsistent, and they were known for a long time as a retirement home for people. The likes of Linfield and the Glens, when they're big players, maybe their last year would have went up there, sort of seen out their last year. But I didn't have that thought. I just had a thought of, Glens there, nobody's looking to do. I could go up there maybe with a bit more experience and try and help what he had there, try and kick on. And that was the main reason of going there. Working with him was no different as a player. He had expectations. He had a desire, will to win. And he didn't let standards drop. And it proved to be a good move for me because we got the Irish Cup final that year. I know we moved in the January. We got the cup final in the May against Glenavon, lost 2-1. And I had torn my cruciate ligament after 22 minutes. So it was a bit of kick in the teeth for me then. But no regrets, certainly going to Ballymena and working with Glenn. It was good. I can remember, I think we lost the Irish Cup final to Glenavon. We then got to a League Cup final against Cliftonville. We lost 3-2. We then played Linfield in the County Antrim Shield final, beat them. Mm-hmm. And then I think we had got to an Irish Cup semi-final against Portadown. And we had lost out to them. So we were always in and around cups, getting to finals. And then just the league position let us down for Glen. You know, we weren't consistent enough, which was disappointing because on one-off games we proved that we could do it.
Yeah.
But in the league campaign we didn't have those players at that time that were able to play on a consistent basis, and unfortunately then Glen lost his job due to that.
What sort of team did you have at Ballymena? Any players that sort of stood out, or?
We did. We had a mixed team. You know, Alan Blaney, Dwayne Nelson was there as a goalkeeper. Alan Blaney then came back in. Davy Munster was there. Johnny Taylor, who on his day would have been one of the best centre halves in the league. If I'm being truthfully honest with you, he could have played at a much higher level than Ballymena. David Cushley there then. Tony Keane. Alan Davidson was another boy. The ability that guy had was absolutely frightening, but he just didn't show it enough. I don't think he believed in himself enough. I think he was just a bit of a raker, and he wasn't committed to it. But ability-wise, was absolutely scary. Big Alan Jenkins from Stranraer was one of the best pros I've ever worked with. Absolutely committed. You know, you think this guy was coming over in the boat on a Saturday morning, 7 o'clock, getting into Ballymena, maybe putting the coaching session on for the kids at Ballymena before he was going to play a match in the afternoon. Come back home that night, maybe not getting home till 12 o'clock. You know, so even the commitment that he showed, the desire he showed to keep himself in the shape away from the club, coming in and out of games, you know, was brilliant. But with some really, really good players, but we just couldn't do it consistent enough.
Yeah. So Glen left. Who then came in? Glen
left, and then was reunited again with Davy. Davy and Brian came in from Linfield. He had sort of been out of work for maybe 2 years or something like that. He had come in. We were fighting relegation at the time. We had like 6-7 games left. He came in. We win whatever it was we needed to win to stay up. And then the following year, we kicked on and got the League Cup final. Beat Carrick. It was the first time the club had ever won the League Cup, which was good. You know, I was made captain under Glen after his sort of second year at the club. It was Alan Jenkins was captain, and Glen wanted someone that was kind of locally based. He gave me the captaincy. So for me to lead Ballymena to the first League Cup win was brilliant. It's something that I'm very, very proud of, and it was a fantastic night. But then we kicked on from there, and we managed to progress and get into Europe several times as well, which was always massive for Ballymena, because we wanted to go from that team being inconsistent to being consistent enough to get, you know, we get through the new playoff system they had, which was brilliant to get the club to European stage, you know, because it had been unheard of for so long. And then we just kind of kicked on. You know, we ended up finishing second in the league a couple of years ago to Linfield, where we fell. I wouldn't say we fell just short. We maybe fell short about 5 weeks before the end of the season. It was probably due with lack of numbers in our squad. You know, kind of killed us a wee bit, and that lack of experience. And Linfield's Linfield. You know, they're always going to be thereabouts. The experience they have, the experience they'll always have, got them over the line. You know, but for us to finish second was an achievement in itself.
Yeah.
You know, we can't be too disheartened as to where the expectation level was then for us to finish second. And in doing that, we raised the bar again, and an expectation level for Ballymena now is that they should be thereabouts every year. And I think the last 2 seasons has shown how difficult that can be, because we've then finished in the bottom half. But no, the experiences there at Ballymena too. So some of the trips, we went and played Malmo in the Europa League a couple of years ago on the 11th night. I actually had Brody with me at the time. It was some experience, but I can remember thinking that Malmo just got put out by Chelsea the year before in the Europa League. And here's part-time Ballymena United rocking up. I think there was between 7,500 and 10,000 at the game. So it wasn't overly big for their stadium. Their stadium probably about 25,000. Absolutely frightening to play in. So we're right, first 15 minutes, you know, first 5-10. So I remember looking around the clock, 15 minutes, 0 each. I remember thinking to myself, this feels like I've run a marathon here. Next 15, looked around the clock, 32 minutes on the clock, 0 each, thinking, yes, there you go. 15 minutes, get into half time, 0 each, brilliant. Next thing, looked at the clock, 45 minutes, we're 3-0 down. So we conceded 2 goals in the space of about 2 minutes. 3-0 down, got out in the second half. I remember always thinking, right, keep it tight, first 5-10 minutes, 35 seconds, 4-0. Second half, it just kicked off and conceded straight away. We're thinking, what the hell is going on here? But at the end of the game, we sort of got together. There was a handful of Ballymena supporters. And you always hear this thing about a wall. Behind the goal at Malmo, there was this wall. And it was just their fanatics. And we just went round. As we were walking off, they started shouting Ballymena. So we had kind of, we'll go. So we went round. And what they gave us was absolutely scary. You know, the applause we got for what we're on. It beat us, I think it was 5, it was 7-0 maybe. I think it beat us 7-0. And walking off, what they give us was brilliant. You know, for getting beat 7-0 and what they give us going off the pitch, you know, hairs in the back of your neck were standing up. You know, you just get beat 7-0. You should be walking down the tunnel and you're embarrassed. But it was scary. It was
just weren't high-fiving
each other and stuff. It was an experience in itself, you know, to watch whatever it was 5,000 behind the net going absolutely ballistic at a wee team from Ballymena.
Brilliant. Some experience. So what is David Jeffrey like? I know he's always renowned for being a man motivator, is it?
Yeah, he would run through a brick wall for him. You know, I think anybody that speaks about him, they would tell you that. His motivational skills, you know, you only have to be in a room with him for 10 minutes and you would know what he's like. You know, so I can't say anything bad about him, to be truthfully honest with you. You know, that year, the clean sweep team and the teams that he developed at Linfield was absolutely frightening, and it was all down to him, his recruitment, Brian and Alfie in the training and different bits and pieces, and David doing the training. How organised he was, and you know, everything was there. You know, through his preparation, everything that he had set up, he left no stone unturned with his preparation. You know, whether it be, no disrespect to Lisburn Distillery or an institute or an Albert Foundry, if you maybe played in the cup to Glentoran or a European team, there was no stone unturned, and that was credit to him, that every team he played against they got the same preparation as the next one.
So we're now on to your big move in the summer there on the Carrick again. So what do you think about it?
I'm looking forward to it. As I say, I was let go of Ballymena then. You know, wasn't offered a contract. They wanted me to go in and do a bit of a coaching job with sort of helping reserves out. It's a couple of nights and then get in the first team a couple of nights, but I didn't want to retire. I still feel like I've got enough to offer playing ways. And Sturdy's got the job then. Sturdy King, who had played with it in Linfield, he's got the job at Carrick, and I spoke to him after it was released, and I was interested and happy with what he was looking at and where his vision was. And I just thought, well, do you know what, I'll go and see if I can help him out for his early stages in his management career at Premiership level, and I'll go and do everything I can for him, and hopefully can bring him that experiences that I've had at the previous clubs and the experience I've had throughout the league. Hopefully can bring that to him and help sort of Carrick kick on, and rather than be a team fighting relegation every year, why can we not go and challenge for that last European spot, sort of 7th position, and that's what we'll be looking to do.
Yeah, I suppose it's a bit, what I mean is a big move. What I meant is for your next step of your career, because you're wanting to coach, and you talked about it at the start. Is that what your aim is, to learn in there as regards to coaching and then go on after this? Would this be your last move, you'd say, or?
I don't know, because
put you in a spot like.
I don't know. Listen, I'm 36. I'm not getting any younger, so I know it'll take 2 years. That's going to be 38. Who knows?
Yeah.
I want to try and play for as long as I can, but the same doing my coaching badges now to put me in that position that when I do retire, that I'm ready to sort of go into the coaching side of things. It's something I've spoken to Sturdy about, and he's pretty keen to get me involved in things. But first and foremost, the move to Carrick is to play. It's not. I don't think you can go in as a role of going around player coach.
Yeah.
Because I think that's difficult to try and do, and I think it's difficult then to go from the playing side into coaching in case there's a conflict there. But so the Carrick thing's first and foremost, it's going in to play and to hopefully play every week. The coaching side of it will maybe come if I'm out through injury, suspension, different things like that. I may get an opportunity there to do that, but I'll just continue to do my bits and pieces away from there then, and build my coaching hours up and build my experience up for when that time comes. When it comes, who knows? But I want to try to play for as long as I can.
Yeah. As you're from this area, and mental health is a big issue in this area, and you've just touched on it earlier. You've went in some downs in your career. How would you sort of put a sort of positive way of how to pick yourself up? When you're down and you're injured or things happen in your life and do you try that a wee bit harder to get yourself in the right direction, or?
To be honest with you, it's quite a difficult one because, as you know, mental health is crazy at the minute. It's scary, you know, and everybody has difficult times, everybody's difficult moments, and it's the people that I feel it's the people you have around you help you get out of it. But those people can only help you get around it and come out of it by opening up and speaking to them.
Yeah.
You know, my own personal experiences. I'm not going to sit here and say that, oh, you don't do this or don't. Everybody has their times where they don't want to talk.
Yeah.
That's just natural, you know. But any advice for anybody, whether it be in sport or outside of sport, I think it's people can only help you if you can open up to them. People can only help you if you let them help you. You know, if you're going to be a closed book, no one's going to know any different. No one's going to know how you're feeling. No one's going to know if you're down or yes, you can pick up on people's moods here and there, but unless you're actually able to speak about it and get it off your chest and get feedback from somebody else who's possibly experienced the same things, because that's the thing, you know, I think the main thing, as you're saying about the mental health side of it, not just in football, but you always think that people are going to ignore you.
Yeah.
But if you don't open up to someone and share that experience of what you're going through, you're never ever going to get the help, because that person you could be speaking to could have experienced the same thing and are able to give you feedback, or able to point you in the right direction or point you to the right people. And I think the big thing of the whole mental health thing is fear.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. It's a fear. And I don't think it's something you can ever take away from people. I think it's something people maybe have to learn to deal with as being maybe more open-minded.
Yeah.
I think, especially in this country, you know, a lot of people are very judgmental, especially social media these days. You know, people playing up to a crowd and people playing a certain lifestyle, and you know, everybody has something going on in their life that they need to talk about, that they need to open up about, that they need to open up to that right person. I think is a big thing, you know. And I don't think it's anything that you should. I don't think there's anything you should really bottle up. Yes, you're probably going to at different stages, but I don't think it's going to be good for you if you do that.
Yeah.
I think you need to get out and speak to somebody.
Yeah. We're just going to sort of start to wind it up now. Best player you played with?
Best player I've played with, there's been quite a few, but I think the standout one, and I don't think it'd be a surprise to anybody, would be Steve Davis. You know, from St Andrews at under 11s till Northern Ireland under 21s, where I played the whole way through with him. He was absolutely frightening. I always remember Joe Kincaid at 14 years of age, Steve Davis, in the Mountain View bar at the presentation. He stood up and says, "I guarantee you that this young lad will captain his country." He was 14 at the time.
Big claim.
14.
That is a big claim at 14.
That's what he went on to do.
Fair play, anyone can do that.
You know, so he would be the best I've played with.
Best player you played against?
Best player played against, there's been quite a few. Possibly there's been ones in England that have went on to make a career out of it, but for sheer ability, Pat McCourt, Derry City, absolutely scary. Absolutely. I remember Davey brought me on at Windsor one night, the man Markham, come on sub, and he had a free row, and I was going on sub, and he says, "Wherever Pat McCourt goes, you go." And I can remember looking at him going, "How the heck am I going to catch up with him?" He was just, I've never seen somebody run as quick with a football. He was quick, but he was quicker with the football.
Unbelievable.
Frightening. What a player. He was scary.
What was his nickname? The Derry Pelly?
Derry Pelly. Absolutely frightening. But and a really, really nice bloke into the bargain. A really nice bloke.
Brilliant. So, last one. On the spot. Don't defend anyone. 1 to 11. Of the players you've played with.
Well, this is easy actually. I've done this before.
Oh, he's experienced. Not experience is a big podcast, is this? Surely? No comment?
No comment. Goalkeeper, Alan Manis. Absolutely scary. See, if he tells you to do something, you do it. Because if you've ever seen the size of this bloke, and if you ever see him angry, you'll understand why. He was absolutely frightening. He would be my goalkeeper. Right back, I'm not even putting myself in the team here. So it would be Stephen Douglas. Me and him challenged each other for right back the whole way through our Linfield career, and it's quite strange because the friendship the two of us had, the friendship the two of us still have to this day, and the two of us challenged each other the whole way through for the same position, which is probably unheard of because usually people you go against is somebody you don't really, you tend to get on with.
Yeah.
But anybody that knows Stephen Douglas, if you needed somebody to get into the team anywhere, you would play him anyway. Just what he brings in the changing room is absolutely frightening. But what a footballer as well. Centre backs would be Winky and Noel. Both of them, and again, frightening. What Winky gives you is scary, and to have him behind you, especially me playing it right back, to have Winky behind you was always brilliant because you could always rely on him. Hard as nails, and he was good on a night out as well. Noel, skipper. Anybody that plays over 1,000 games for the one club, how can you not have him in your 1-11? He was just. Don't think I really appreciated. Well, I don't mean really appreciate. Always knew Noel was a good player, but then when I went to Linfield, I realised how good he was. What he brought, communication, different bits and pieces like that, was frightening. And he led from. He's the only guy who doesn't do a warm up. Went out and he was 9 out of 10 every week. He was brilliant. Pat McShane, left back. So there's a thing going here in case you don't realise. Hard as nails, frightening, and showed me the ropes at Linfield. Took me under his wing and told me what I could do, what I couldn't do. And as you probably refer back there to Ron, who says when you players left Linfield and you played against them, I'd come up against him. Like I remember the two of us used to kick a shit out of each other, playing against each other. We were so close. Midfield.
What formation are we going?
I'm going to go 4-4-2.
Just the standard solid.
Standard 4-4-2 because that's what we played.
Is Kusha in this?
He's not, no. maybe have to do it the next year. Jimmy Mulgrew. We're going to play him out in the right just because of the way we wore. Jimmy Mulgrew. Listen, what more do you need to say? He's another one like Noel Bailey. He's Linfield through and through. Been at the club for so long and continued to stay there for another couple of years. We'll go into coaching management there at Linfield, no doubt about it. And again, a serial winner, an absolute serial winner who you can't fault. Most foul player in the Irish League. Whether it's justified or unjustified sometimes.
Still doing it, but
he's still doing it, and scary. My good mate who've been with all week, Galty, in the middle, along with Paul McAreevy. Galty run all day, run through brick wall for you. I remember Davey used to call him the White Vieira at Linfield at the time. Guy could have out 5 nights a week and get absolutely rode off and was still the fittest player in the team at the time. Mackers, absolutely scary. What a player on the ball. Football, just constantly wanted to play football. You went long, he told you off. He was frightening. He was frightening when Davey got him fit. He was very, very good. And he was another one. Co-rail manager Owen Kearney, wide left.
That's some midfield.
He was an absolute machine. Left foot to die for. Up and down, up and down, up and down. Non-stop, hard as nails. Tackler, frightening, and I'm not surprised at how his co-rail teams have done because they play the way he played, and obviously Winky there as well. Absolutely frightening and it was an absolute joy to play with. No surprise, 2 strikers, Pistol Pete and Spike. So as you see here, the 11 is the clean sweep team.
Yeah, well.
Minus myself, who was substituted to put Dougie in. Had to get Dougie in somewhere, he'd tell me off anyway. But the goals them 2 boys scored, crazy. Spike could have got you something out of nothing, and Peter, he used to get the nickname of Shin coming through the Linfield youth team because he used to say everything he scored came off his shin. But for years at Linfield, he just done it year in, year out. and I don't think sometimes he got the credit that he possibly deserved of how hard working he was. You know, yes, a lot of it came from Spike with the teamwork the two of them had, but the both of them as together were absolutely phenomenal. I'll never forget the goal Spike scored against the Glens at the Oval. I think we beat them 4-0. It might have been a Boxing Day game. And the ball just come over from the left hand side, and he was running. He watched it come over his head, and he just hit it on the volley like Van Basten's. Van Basten's in the Euros.
Yeah.
And at the Oval, and we were attacking the Blue Men, and to score such a goal, that was probably one of the only times you're like looking at the crowd going, "Oh my gosh!" When he had scored a goal like that. But he could have played. Spike could have played up front, and would have got man of the match. He played centre midfield at times at Linfield. He'd have got man of the match. And he played centre half in a couple of games, and he'd have got man of the match.
His hold-up play.
But that's how good he was. You know, he wasn't just a good striker. It was an all-round game. He got man of the match playing midfield, and he got man of the match at the back too. He was brilliant. So that's my team 1-11.
Who's your manager?
Manager would have to be Davey. You know, it would have to be Big Davey. For the length of time I've worked with him, 9.5 years at Linfield, 5 at Ballymena. You know, and obviously I had Spike for a couple of years, and I'm now getting Sturley here for the next couple of years as well. But for the length of time I've spent with Davey, for what I've won and what I've achieved under him, it would have to be him.
Brilliant. Jim Ervin, thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you, mate.
Now turn up.